Welcome to the Fantasy Football Clown Show. I'm Ed, and along with Brad tonight, working in a two-man booth. Welcome, Brad. How is life after week 12?
Yeah, I mean, pretty good.
I see you're just taking off in a bunch of leagues, and I was talking in the Flock 7 to one of the guys there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I can't believe that Brad's done so well this year. I would have never guessed." And I'm like, "It's kind of par for the course. I feel like every year, Brad, you don't really have the best team on paper, but just kind of at the end, you make a couple subtle moves. You don't make anything big and splashy. You don't feel like I'm gonna just throw away the whole team. You just patiently make one or two slick moves. It feels like adding a middle reliever in baseball for the pennant race. Like it just feels like there's one obscure move, gets you where you're trying to go, and then off you go."
Yeah. I mean, it's just it's not all about trading and switching up the team. For me, I guess it's more about building.
So it's kind of funny that we say that because I was on another chat today in a league, and they were trying to explain to me that this is year 3, and I started out 6-0, and I'm now 6-6. So yeah, 6-game losing streak, right? And I said, well, I have 10 players injured, which I do. I have 10 players out, injured, suspended, and the like. And then they kind of came back with, well, yeah, but you traded for Javonte injured. And I said, yeah, I did. At that point, I realized that, you know what, with Brees hurt, that I may as well build a team that has Brees and Javonte, and I have a team that has Deshaun Watson on it as well. And that team on paper is better next year than it is this year. Like without any draft picks, without anything happening. At that point, I kind of had some other bad luck. I sold my second and third for Penny and Jeff Wilson. And that was at a point when Jeff Wilson wasn't even playing. So I felt like Penny's hurt now. And now my running backs are really decimated. So I may as well build for next year because I may as well have a first round pick, build for next year. And I also had Jameson Williams. And so again, I think that he'll be better next year. So I feel like now I'm accumulating these young assets that are going to be better next year. And so I wasn't intentionally losing, but I wasn't going to stress about going 0-6 in the next 6 games, and I probably won't make the playoffs, and that's a kind of okay because I feel like that team just nothing gets better. And as it turns out, the starting tight end is now Kyle Pitts, and so Kyle Pitts also got hurt. So now I'm kind of minus Pitts. So it's good I didn't really sell that whole breakup because I mean, just kind of think about this in a team that's a super flex. So one quarterback, one super flex. The 3 best quarterbacks I have are Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Deshaun Watson. So that's can have an injury or like I can actually withstand injuries there and still be okay. And then at running back, I have Brees and Javonte as my top 2. And then I've got guys like Cam Akers and some of those kind of guys that I've been filling in with all along. But I also have Zamir White. I also have Kenneth Gainwell. I also have, James Cook. I have a lot of young guys that maybe or maybe not, but we know that Brees Hall and Javonte are good. And then at receiver, I've got guys like Pittman and Gabe Davis and Jameson Williams and Sky Moore. And so, it just feels like all those guys have the ability to get better, right? Like, doesn't that make sense? Is that okay? I mean, and so I was like, why would I sell one of those three stud quarterbacks at a low price when that feels like an advantage to me, like having those on a team. Like that feels like an advantage. Like I don't think I ever will lose the quarterback points with those quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's what people don't get is just because you have a surplus at one position doesn't make that player's value go down just because you're not using them. Like that's
well, and I probably will use them all 3. Now I did have Tua available, and so I did sell Tua to get that trade of Javonte, Zamir White, and James Cook. So I went out and got these three young assets. One that I knew was pretty good in Javonte, and 2 guys I don't know if they're any good or not, but I know they're rookies is what I know. And we'll see what happens with them. But now I've got 3 shots, and I was able to kind of accumulate. What I was really trying to do was build a running back stable of Brees and Javonte because I think that feels like really strong next year. That feels like, okay, that's like a let's go running back room, that is has a chance to be two top tens. I think. I think that's not unreasonable. And then if I have two top 5 quarterbacks and two top 10 running backs and the top and two top 10, I feel like I got a little lucky at tight end. So I have Woods as a tight end on my taxi. So not only do I have Pitts, but now I have Woods. And Woods last night. What did you think of Woods last night?
I think he's pretty solid.
I mean, he had a freaking banging game. In a redraft league, I had this huge craziness. I don't know if you've ever seen in trades. So I made a trade at 8:21 East Coast time on Sunday night, and part of the trade was me receiving Devonta Smith, and I was giving up Christian Watson. So they left our starting lineup, and they went to our bench, and they locked in our bench. We immediately went to both of us went to our teams, and they were locked on our bench. But we immediately looked at our team, and we had a hole at flex, both of us. So it had to be, and it was 8:21. I looked at my phone for time because I thought at 8:20 it would lock them, and then they would just stay. And I had acquired what I was trying to accomplish is I had sent I had sent Christian Watson and David Montgomery, and I received back in return DJ Moore and Devonta Smith. And while I think I might have gotten the worst two players in that deal, what I was doing was David Montgomery and Christian Watson are both bye week 14s, and I needed to get rid of the problem I was about to have in bye week 14. So DJ Moore is a bye week 13 guy, but I had enough to cover that. I didn't have other pieces missing that week, and so I'm trying to win out in that league. I was in 12th place out of 12 teams after week 10, and I found my way to 7th place after week 12. So in 2 weeks, I went from 12th to 7th in that league. Yeah. So I'm on a freaking mission, and to try to. I was third in points, so in 12th place. So I guess I felt like I was in a position, but I was just losing these close games. So now and I played Justin in week 14, who happens to be in 2nd place. So I'm kind of trying to figure out a way to beat him and in that week. So that's going to be a challenge for me. Okay, so as we start here in Clownheads, we had kind of a mishap this week in Clownheads. We did do one for Thanksgiving Day, and I finished in 11th place on Thanksgiving Day with a 107.04. And the first place team was Schofstol with a 165.62, and he had Allen with 30, Stevenson with 20, Elliott with 16.5, Diggs with 21, St. Brown with 30, McKenzie with 22. That was the cheat code piece. Schultz with 19. And then he actually had Thornton in his flex with 0, and the Cowboys with 4. So that's the first time I've seen a 0 actually win. Last Action Hero with 157.62 is 2nd place, and then Justin with 151.92 came in 3rd, so got some money back. And then I played some head-to-heads on Sunday, and that was KMVY, and Digaz and Justin all beat me, and my score on Sunday was 99.66. So I'm not sure what happened to it looked like KMVY was the only participant in the tournament on Sunday. So I'm not sure what happened there, why I only had a head-to-head, but anyway, that was kind of where it was. Moving on to the Elite Eight, this is getting tight, and I did bring up, and I'll share a little bit of some of the things going on in the Elite Eight as we go with the predictions, and then we'll also get your take, Brad, on some of the things happening in the Elite Eight. But in Division A, Tweet KC at 242.56, 5th place overall, and in his division with an 8-4 record. Division B, Seaballs 585 at 282.18, 5th place overall, 7-5. Division C, Corporation 24, 277.05, number 7 overall, and a 6-6 record. Division D, MFL Legend 259.68, number 2 overall, 10-2 record. Division E, Extreme Confidence 290.35, and number 2 overall, 9-3 record. Division F, Matt DeFalco, 12, 245, 11. Number 3 overall, 8-4 record. Division G, Miley, 0568. Number 2 overall, 8-4 record. And then our top scorer actually in Division H, M. Ralston, 10-13 with a 320.74. So the only team over 300 points this week. The number 1 seed, 10-2 record. And so what jumped out to me, Brad, just about Division H having that top team over 300 was that was the only number 1 seed in any of the Clownhead leagues to win this week or be the top scorer. So as we all got our teams back in action in week 12, no buys, that was the only number 1 to come out and do some damage.
Yeah, I mean, his team just kind of went off this week. Having guys like P. Ryan to plug in there for another team's injured Mixon definitely helped him a lot this week. Had 27 for him. He's got Jonathan Taylor, who had a great week, and then obviously to score over 300, he had Jacobs. So, I mean, that 70 bomb from him was a big points getter. And then he had Kyler and Brissett as his quarterbacks that had good weeks, and then he has Kelsey as a tight end. So, I mean, he definitely looks like the team to beat right now. His team looks pretty solid.
And Kelsey seems to be on all those teams. And I just bring up our projections that we did at the beginning of the year and then after week 8. And you look at the yellows. Yellows is this week. And, you know, I had Corporation in Division C, and Justin had MFL Legend as in Division D, you know, this week. But very few of us had much right in the Elite 8 at the beginning of the year. And then, you know, we fast forward to the midpoint, and Extreme Confidence and Matt DeFalco for me, and then MF Legend and Extreme Confidence for Justin is all we got right in any of this week in the kind of the one game that we have all of our people. And kind of funny, none of us had M. Ralston at all anywhere, and in either of them. And I just kind of an interesting, you know, maybe we don't know anything, but it's just interesting how that's kind of come out of nowhere, so to speak, or feels like it's come out a little bit of nowhere. Looking at Clownheads 1 through 5, just to kind of move on to that. Clownheads 1, Last Action Hero, 247.66. Number 4, fourth place, 8-4 record. Clownhead 2, Malahim's 277.86, the number 4 spot in that division, 8-4 record. Clownheads 4, David R. 1, 230.61, number 4 overall, again, 7-5 record. And Clownheads 5, W. Barrett, W, 247.03, number 4 overall, 8-4 record. And the biggest scorer was Matt DeFalco in Clownheads 3 at 284.52, number 4 overall, 8-4 record. And so a lot of number 4s there. Actually, all 5 Clownheads. The 4th seed seems to be the one that takes the prize this week. An interesting spot that we've only had one seed out of all 13 divisions, you know, that won, and lots of 4s winning there in Clownheads 1 through 5. So that was a spot.
Just goes to show that you don't need to score the most points to be the top team.
You just need to beat your opponent. Really, you just got to beat your opponent, right? That's, I mean, anything from Matt DeFalco's team, Brad, that you see that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, his team didn't have the greatest week. A lot of his players underperformed, but he had Jacobs on his team, had a 60 bomb, so that was a great game. Ramondre had a 30-point game, and then Amari Cooper had a 20-point game. But other than that, pretty much everybody else on his team underprojected, wow. Which is interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Looking at our contest as well, you had Matt DeFalco in the preseason in second place, so you got that. You got some points for that. And I see you had Malahames and Justin had David R. I had nothing. I was just nothing there. And then I had Malahames in the midseason, and looks like Justin had W. Barrett, and that's all. And so when I drop that down here, I want to show the scores a little bit. Brad, your preseason was 7 points this week, but as you can see, 7 points is the high, but it's not very many compared to some of the others. Just like guys like me that have one that don't do so well. And then preseason, Justin actually with 7 or midseason, I should say, was our leader in the clubhouse here. I've highlighted in green when we're the top producer out of the 3 of us for their weeks. You can kind of see where we are there. Looks like you and I are neck and neck. I'm beating you 6-5 for top weeks out of the preseason, and then you and Justin, you're beating him 3-2. And I haven't done well in the midseason rankings. As you see, I haven't won yet, and Justin really hasn't won won once in week 4 in our early season rankings, and you can see the scores total, there that we're dealing with 142, 89, 117, and then 37, 47, 60. So with how we're doing there points wise. I want to I'll pop the redrafts, and then I want to show some other slides here. Clownheads 1 redraft, Heifer 808, 288.31, number 1 seed, won there, 9-3 record, and Clownheads 2, Cheeky Hobson 276.11, the number 6 seed with a 6-6 record for the high scores, and that was probably pretty important for Cheeky Hobson to stay in the playoff run there when you're over the 6 seed and getting wins and you're controlling your destiny, and so. That's kind of where it is there. And I'm actually the number 1 seed in Clownheads 2 redraft. So still, and then I'm fighting for my playoff life in Clownheads 1. So redraft. Did want to kind of show the quarterback spreadsheet, and I know everybody knows I like this spreadsheet, but I think there's some valuable things here, and taking a peek at it. The colors mean that there've been quarterback changes, and red, for instance, means that we're on our 3rd quarterback of the year. And green means that the starter that we had in August is back. And so if you look at the AFC East, you see only Josh Allen has been there for every game besides the bye. And then we look at the NFC North, and we see that Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow are the only people there without the bye. And now we will see a green Deshaun Watson coming back here in this, for Cleveland. And then we look at the AFC South, and we see that Trevor Lawrence is the only guy there without some activity, even though we have some starters back in action there with Tannehill and Ryan. They missed time. And then when you go out west, we do have a pretty decent quarterback room there in the 4 teams, because Russ only missed 1 week there with his misses, and then the other 3 are there. And then you can kind of take a look at even the NFC East, where we have Taylor Heineke. It feels like a long time ago that Carson Wentz was in, or that Cooper Rush was winning games for Dallas. Like, they seem like a long time ago, but we've really only had 5 games of Dak. Like, for as long as it feels like he's been playing and Cooper Rush has been gone, we've only really had 5 games of Dak. So that's not there. And you can see we're down to Trevor Siemian here, and then we do have a lot of the quarterbacks in the NFC North, and then the NFC South. That's like a train wreck. We're on our 3rd quarterback there, and 4th change for the Panthers. And then Andy Dalton feels like a long time ago when we had the Jameis Winston sighting. And then we go out west, and you can see that's crazy too. Like, there's a lot of quarterbacks and changes there. So when people tell me that quarterbacks don't change, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 of the starting quarterbacks at the beginning of the year are still playing quarterback and haven't missed any games. So only 15. So we're under half right now at the 12-week point that haven't played. And, there's rumors that Aaron Rodgers might start missing some time. Like, that's not, then we'll be at 14. And, there are some things that we're still waiting to kind of hear. So there's some possibilities of getting that number. Wouldn't it be crazy if 10 quarterback, if we ended the year and if 22 quarterback changes happened or something? Like, that feels very logical to me. Like, it really does at this point. There's logical to do that we could see that, whether it be Mariota given away so that we can see what we have in Ritter, or let's take a look at Jordan Love, or like there just feels like there could be some things that happen like that. That's besides injury, right? Like that feels like it happened. So that's that. I also wanted to take a peek at the playoff seedings. I try to take a look at these every week. And as we see here, this is what it would look like if the playoffs were to start this week in week 13. Now, if you notice here, it says week 15. And so we have this week, we have the 1 versus the 16, and you can see the divisions here, the 2 versus the 15, 3, 14, 4, 13, 5, 12, 6, 11, 7, 10, and 8, 9 games, and just kind of how we put them together. And they're all based on record, and then total points are the tiebreakers. And at that point, we were able to just seed them naturally and not put division winners together. So that's kind of the rundown of the things going on. And I did want to actually, as I was sharing the screen there, I do want to share one more trade here with you, Brad. I don't know if you saw this before. This is a trade that went down in one of my leagues earlier today, and I wonder what your thought is on it. What do you think about that trade?
That's definitely interesting.
Like, what side do you want of that? I mean, I guess it's grown on me a little bit. It's in a league where $100 is the budget.
Yeah, I think I'd honestly want the Fab.
Well, if you're in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
If you're in the playoffs, I think
fourth round picks are too much of dart throws that you can use that.
But let me ask you this: if you're not in the playoffs, it's not like you're devaluing the money by taking the 4th round dart throw.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're giving away the money. Like, who cares? Like, so I don't like to trade quarterbacks, for instance, cheap, right? Like, I don't like to just give them to my opponents, because then that lessens the more quarterbacks I have's value. But if I give you $100 Fab dollars, now I have 0, right? Because that's all I had, and I didn't spend any this year. It's not like my 100 next year's worth less.
Yeah.
Right? And even if it is, who cares? I'm not trying to sell it to you next year for a higher price.
Yeah.
Unless I am, and then I will. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not setting the stage for anything. And I don't know. Like, I like it. I like it for both sides. Like, I think that, you know what? I get it. At first, I'm like, what the hell? Like, that's dumb. And then I got to thinking about it a lot, and I'm like, that's a trade I'd make. Either side of that's the trade I make.
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to do with the money if I'm out of the playoffs? I'm going to bid on people just to screw with people just because I can? I mean, like, that's really what I'm going to do. So I may as well take the 4th round pick. It's worth more to me.
Yeah.
So what it tells me is I'm going to offer this out to people. In the teams I'm out of, I'm just going to offer, and there's still a trading going on. So when we get off of here today filming, I'm going to go and I'm going to offer, like, when I'm 5 games out in a couple of leagues and stuff, and they're still trading, I'm going to offer them all my Fab money for, like, 3rd round picks.
I was going to say a 3rd round pick, I'd sell my 100.
Well, I don't have 100 everywhere because you know I spend money. I mean, I think that's something I want to ask you about. And we're getting to the final time here, but as we wrap up, but what do you think is one of the biggest things that you can give our audience or the people in the Clownhead community of why you're successful in fantasy football, or what kind of separates you, or what do you think the key to success is? Because you've had a lot of success, realistically, winning leagues when you play in leagues. What do you
I don't know. I think it's really about staying detached from emotionally from players, obviously. Like, that's a big part of it. Yeah. I can't think of anything else right now, but I don't know. I pound running back a lot. I think they're very valuable to the team.
And then what flaws do you see out there when you see it? You're like, can't believe they just did that. And you're like, like I feel like that doesn't make a lot of sense. Is there anything that happens in leagues and you're like, maybe it's me holding on to quarterbacks? No, I'm kidding.
I mean, I don't know. I don't let a lot of that stuff get to me, I guess.
Okay.
That's probably a big reason why I went to. I stay very composed about a lot of stuff that happens in different leagues.
I follow that with you. Like I think that you don't. So I go in and I'll instigate on a board. You never say anything on any board. Like I never see you say anything on a board. And I go in and instigate on the board because I'm trying to get people to look the direction I'm instigating and miss what I'm really doing. Like there's a little bit of a smoke screen in what I do. Now, not that I'm pretty loud about what I do, but nobody pays attention to what I really do.
Yeah.
They see the screen that I put up. And I'm not Aaron Rodgers, I'm not near as smart as him, but there's a lot of truth in what I do, but you have to look through it a little bit to find the truth. I was like looking at it. I make 4 trades in 3 years. It's not a lot of trades, right? In the league. Like I've been in the league for 3 years, the league I spoke of earlier. I mean, 4 trades in 3 years.
Man.
But I made 75 waiver ads every year. 75, 78, 82. Those are my 3 waiver years. So I add like a mother in the waivers. Like I'm always hitting the waivers hard. And I cycle my bench like everything. And people focus on the number of quarterbacks. They're placeholders to me. Like I was looking at that team where they say I have too many quarterbacks. Yeah, I have 12 quarterbacks. I have 9 receivers, 9 running backs, and 4 tight ends. That's actually quite balanced, as a matter of fact. Right? I mean, I start 3 receivers and 2 running backs. I have 9 of them. I have a pretty good assortment, and I would never drop Zamir White so I could have, I don't know, some bumblebee backup quarterback on my roster. I just drop them like nobody's business. I don't care. But I also don't care about some no-name receiver because he doesn't matter to me. Simio Ofoko doesn't matter to me right now. Like he can be great, and you guys can have a field day bidding him up. I would much rather have Cooper Rush on my team because if something happens at Dak, I got value now. And when I'm playing in my 1 quarterback leagues, I do that with running backs. I mean, this year I'm kind of chuckling because guess who I had on my team before this week that I picked up last week? Samaje Perine.
You can pick him up in leagues?
I picked him up right ahead of the week he actually started to go off on my bench, and they're like, "How did you have him?" Last night I had Javonte Woods in my flex. He went off, and I have him. Like I already have him. I don't know. I already have him so it's not really all about quarterbacks. It's about kind of looking at opportunities, like who's about to get an opportunity or who might. Like I would say. I said what I said about the Bears, right? So if Fields doesn't play, I'm going to give all the listeners a quick sneak peek. Tristan Ebner would be a player I want to have, right? Like he's on nobody's thing. If Khalil Herbert does not suit, which he may or may not, but if he doesn't suit up, then that's the backup to David Montgomery. David Montgomery in a contract year, they're going to at one point want to see what they have in Tristan Ebner. So why not make sure you have him on your roster? And they're going to play him at some point anyway. But if David Montgomery goes down, then you got the guy. So you have the guy if Montgomery gets hurt, but you also have the guy just because they're going to want to see the guy. Like they've already tipped their hand. They're going to want to see, do we have a running back here or do we need to draft one? Like, that's going to be a natural question that the team is going to ask. So I feel like that's what makes me a good player. Maybe that doesn't make me a good player, but that's what I feel like makes me a good player is I can kind of look at the scenario and say, well, gee, why not? That seems like a logical pickup then this week, right? That sounds like a logical pickup. Tristan Ebner sounds like a logical pickup, right? Like especially if Herbert plays, I won't feel I'll wait for the time that Herbert does it, So like last night when Claypool got hurt, I'm like, well, geez, they're going to have a third receiver on Pittsburgh. So I picked up Steven Sims. So I have Steven Sims a couple places. Now, he kind of went off last night. I might drop him, but I might hold him. But I have him now. So if he does go off, I kind of have him. Like I already have him. Now, there are sometimes I take players and they don't work. Austin Doolin, I got him last night too. You know? It's good to have him on the team. I'm going to probably cut him this week for the next best thing. Like, I'll cut him this week for the running back from the Jets, right? I need to cut somebody to put a provisional bid on that there. Like I need a bid on it to make sure everybody bids on it. So I'll put the $5 I put on it to make sure somebody has to bid 8 and, beat me, and that's fine. And then if they don't, then I had to have somebody to drop. I'll use Doolin as my drop because it just is a cycle thing. And if Doolin would have blew up, then I would have had him already. Like now I can't drop. I actually had Woods teed up to drop. Can't drop him, right? Can't drop him. And
not this week.
You can't drop him, right? No, I mean he's 6'7", dude, 6'7". Like this could be the beginning of something. Like it really could be the beginning of something. He was actually the number 2 ranked tight end coming out of college. Ahead of Dulcich and some of those guys. So, it's there's pedigree there too as well. So that's kind of what I think. So that's the biggest advice I guess I pass on to people who watch the podcast is that I think patience, kind of looking at what the team would do and why, and then not getting attached, like you said. I kind of play differently than you, definitely. But I think we get to the same result because the biggest thing is we don't get attached to players, and we don't. I mean, I have players I like though, I guess, because I like young guys. So I like Javonte, I like Brees, but I think I like them because they perform. If that makes sense. Like I look for burst, I look for things like that I think are sustainable. And then like you, I go heavy on running backs. I don't know, like I have a lot of Zay Jones and a lot of Paris Campbell. Now Paris Campbell didn't do real good last night, but you know what? For the whole, he's been okay. He's been kind of okay.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, guys that are like CeeDee Lamb fans that got him in the second round of startup drafts, like they're probably not very happy right now, and like, just because they like the guy and they'll take him early, and I just don't.
I think CeeDee went in the first round sometimes.
Yeah, like guys like that are just hyped up, and
I mean I'm not totally out of it. Even when I drafted Brees and Javonte, like I have a redraft team that I had both of them, and I'm still in it. Like I'm still in the game in redraft.
Oh yeah, I feel like
I drafted Saquon and Kamara too. So, I'm still okay. And I have Devonta Adams, so I didn't go 0 receiver. I just took one, and then I went I went crazy running back, and I filled in with a couple guys that are at receiver that I moved on to Christian Kirk types. Like they're fine.
Yeah.
I think I have Kirk in that league. Well, he's okay. It's not. No, we're not burning down the buildings, but we're okay. And then I just backfilled with DJ Moore and Devonta Smith. I don't know. Like I would love to have AJ Brown, but I couldn't afford him. So I'll still get a piece of the Philly offense. Like I still am probably okay with Devonta Smith. I probably, I'll still get something there. And
I mean, honestly, you don't need AJ Brown. Honestly, when Christian Kirk is pretty much done what AJ Brown's done, with a couple more, with a little bit worse games. Like they both have blow up games.
Well, and in the playoffs, I've lost a couple of years in a row with DK Metcalf because he comes and goes so much that those type of players are tough for me to just mentally grasp. So maybe I do hold grudges against those kind of players. Like I really feel like.
Well, that's what people don't realize about receivers is they put too much value on a position that doesn't get the ball on their own. You know what I mean?
Like, no, I think you're right, and maybe that's it. Like, because Cooper Kupp was the closest thing, but I did hear an interesting take on Cooper Kupp that made a lot of sense to me. Somebody's like, well, I told people not to draft Cooper Kupp, one of the experts I listened to. And they're like, no, you didn't warn him against. He's like, no, he's like, you can't say that about injuries. He's like, yeah, I can. He was 29 and he was 32% of the offense. You don't think that smells like an injury waiting to happen? Like, the human body doesn't sustain that. Like, it's just the law of averages are he's going to get hurt. Like, so of course I'm not going to put all my ducks in a 29-year-old receiver. Last year there was only one 29-year-old receiver that was in the top 20 receivers, and that was Keenan Allen last year. And he's like, and he broke down this year. So I mean, they just always break down. And so looking ahead, 29-year-old receivers next year are guys like Devontae Adams.
Yeah,
this is probably the last year of my needing to have him on my team.
Hopkins still producing at 30, so.
Well, he is. I'm going to tell you, though, I don't think he would be producing for 17 games.
Probably not at this point.
Yeah, like, so next year, if he plans to play all 17 games with that situation at quarterback and coach, I can always have the right to change my mind if things change, but I would not want him on my team everybody's a value at a point. I start with that. So while a lot of people say I avoid people at all costs, I have Robert Woods on my team on a lot of my redraft teams because Robert Woods was a free square as a number one receiver on a playoff caliber offense. It might be a run-oriented offense, but he's the number one receiver on a playoff team that has to put up points to become a playoff team. Like, you can't win games if you don't score any points, and Derrick Henry ain't going to score them off. Like, somebody's going to get the ball. And so I thought, you know what? And he's been fine. He's been fine. At a 12th round pick, he's been fine. Like, so everybody's a value at a point. That's kind of what I think. So, yeah. But at the point where I have to draft Hopkins next year, coming off of a decent time now, like, I'm playing him in DFS all the time, and I'm playing his yardage props, and I play all the stuff that makes sense. I would say the next year I'll be very shy away from. I would almost venture to bet that he'll be closer to maybe Lockett type numbers. Like, it'll be okay, but not excellent. Or, he'll have some games that are good, I guess is where I go, but they won't all be good.
Yeah.
Maybe Thielen's a better example. Thielen has good games. But
I was going to say Lockett's a league winner this year.
Sometimes Lockett. Yeah, but then maybe Lockett's a good example. Sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not.
Yeah.
Not going to put up games every game. I mean, I don't think Lockett put up games every game. I wouldn't want to be dealing with that.
No.
And so those are guys that I try to avoid. Like, so I like 26-year-olds is my kind of plan. But in redraft, I'll extend that a little bit. Look around. And so, yeah, as we depart, getting ready for week 13, we're going to be getting towards our last game. Do you know how many teams you have in the playoffs, Brad, or have in the playoff hunt? Or
I haven't checked yet.
You didn't do that yet? I'm in the playoffs. Did you know that I have one team that's in the playoffs right now? Playoffs were starting in week 12 and week 13. And so I jumped out. It's the Ring of Fire League. It's a league that has 384 teams. And this year I snuck in with the 6th seed. Last year I snuck in with the 6th seed. It's a dynasty league. And my record was 11-11, and my record last year was 11-11. So I think I'm the key of mediocrity. And last year, in the first round of the playoffs, I was leading, which is a 2-week playoff every week. And I was leading in week 1, and then I lost in week 2. So I was kind of 1 and out. So this year, I'm leading by 19.20 in week 1. So hoping to not repeat last year. Obviously, as a 6th seed, I'm playing the 3 seed. He's been eliminated from the big playoffs. So there's a large playoffs for the top 4 seeds in the league, and he's been eliminated from that, obviously losing to me in a week. Then, he's definitely didn't have the great week. And I had players that didn't perform at the best. Like I have my quarterbacks are Jimmy G and Joe Burrow, and then I've got some lesser than guys like Kyle Allen, Mike White, Trevor Siemian, John Wolford, Daniel Jones, and Perkins. So I've got a nice little stable for a 12-team league of kind of I have those quarterbacks a little bit monopolized there. But then my running backs are kind of old and tough. Dalvin Cook, Jamal Williams, and Cam Akers, Cordell Patterson. And then that's who I'm starting this week. And then I have Andrews and Hawkinson that I start at tight end and flex. And my receivers are pretty weak in this league. Like last year, I started Cordell Patterson at receiver because I have Myers, Zay Jones, and Metcalf. And that's kind of my receiving core. And I have Jennings on the bench and Mims and Devontae Parker. And then I have Conklin and Knox on the bench this week as my tight ends. I used to start all tight ends in the flexes, but I think after Knox laid an egg for me last week, I almost feel like Akers is the play this week. Or do you think Akers will get run this week, or you think they're? I mean, like I feel like they're going to see what they have with him, and they're going to give him opportunities. And I'm scared that Knox just might not catch 2 balls. So then it's like a 0, and at least Akers gets 10 carries, 8 carries. And so he's got a chance to break one, if you get the ball sometimes. So I guess I'm kind of like thinking that that's what I think I'm going to do. But that's kind of my team, and so I'm hoping to go get a win in advance. That would be cool when we come back next week, and then we'll begin to kind of, as the playoffs start to shape up. I think next week we'll really dive into some of the Clownhead leagues and where things are and where we stack up in the Clownhead league. So come ready to talk about how you're doing in the Clownhead leagues. I saw that. Did you slide a little bit in the Elite Eight, or are you still in pretty good shape there?
I think I lost in all the Clownheads leagues this week. I had a bad week.
I see. Oh yeah, 7-5. So you're kind of fighting for your playoff life there. I mean, you're in 6th place, so you're in the small playoffs, but you're in the 6th spot. But I feel like you're 2 games back with 2 to play and 400 points short. So you'd have to win by 400 points. You'd have to outscore the Cammer by 400 points to plus 2 wins, plus 2 of his losses in order to get into the big playoffs there. So that loss really hurt this week. Yeah, but a lot of fun and building for the future. So we'll kind of wrap things up. Thank you guys for joining the Clownhead Show, and we'll look forward to coming back next week with some more. For now, that's a wrap, and we'll see you all next week.